Alright, hopefully this guy doesn't leave. But yeah, we'll try to play... Wait, is this Fighting Spirit or Polypoid? Is this Fighting Spirit, right? Looks like it. We'll try to play mechanically we'll try to play like what's commensurate for the rank that I'm at, right? We're doing a educational stream where I rank up from C to S, playing beginner friendly builds. It's laggy. Alright, it's Fighting Spirit. Fighting Spirit has a pretty low rush distance. We're just gonna open Forge Fast Expand. It's just the easiest way. And usually if you go Forge Fast Expand, double pylons, double scout is like the most safe, and it also punishes 12 hatchery. So we will proceed with that. So we wait till 11, and at 11 we're gonna make a forge. And with the 11th worker, that makes the forge will go double scout if we don't scout him first. If we don't scout him first, right? So we send this worker, forge at 11, send that to the other base. What this does is we always guarantee that we will search 9-pull, or, you know, even 4-pull rather, fast enough so that we don't die to a rush. The only downside, obviously, is that we have to scout with 2 workers. But the upside is also, if they go for a 12 hatchery, we can punish them with the cannon rush. So there's some upside to the build. So he's not there, right? Bring this one home. We'll take this guy and go down. I don't see a hatchery. So that's a 9-pull speed, right? Against 9-pull speed, we want to make 2 cannons. Now, we don't actually know if it's 9-pull yet, right? So let's just monitor the drones. Looks like he's slowly starting to not mine anymore, right? If he completely takes off gas, then that means it's most likely just a speed opener. So against this, we just keep monitoring, right? Usually if they send their lings forward, that means it's a speed opener. If they try to kill your probe ASAP, that means they might want to be a little bit more, like, that means they might want to do something funny, you know? Now, you can play this 2 ways, right? Like, he made a lot of lings, right? He at least has like 8 or 10. Speed can be kind of dangerous. So you either want 3 cannons. Okay, he's making more. Okay. But he's also wasting them, so... And at this point, we're fairly certain that this is just going to be a all-in. So effectively, what you can do is like attack your own building so that they hold position. Okay. Because he made that many lings, it's literally impossible for him to have anything else other than like an all-in right now. You know what I mean? Like he made, this is, I think that's 12 lings. It's even more, right? So there's literally nothing else this could be. So you actually could just go ahead and like literally just over defend. You know what I mean? Like even though this is like unnecessary, the point still stands that like as long as you just guard this, you effectively win, right? So I'm just gonna show like, basically I'm just gonna over defend and still win, right? Because like the priority is making sure you don't die to the lings, even though I don't need all these probes. Another trick is you could hold position all your workers once you have an attacking unit with them. Usually in the situation when you can't scout, basically what you want to do is you want to plug in all the holes, right? What do I mean by that? How can you lose? Because you're economically ahead, right? So let's just reason through this. How can I possibly lose, right? You can just mass speedlings, and he could just, you know, bum rush me when I come out, right? So the easy solution to that is, well, we won't move out, right? He could be going for a layer tech, because he didn't have a hatchery. So he certainly doesn't have, like, macro. He doesn't have a lot of stuff, right? So if he doesn't have a lot of stuff, then the only way we can lose is tech. But we already have 3 cannons up front. So it's unlikely that we're going to lose to, let's say, like a Hydra bust or a Lurker bust, right? And so, of course, he's going to do this. And unsurprisingly, this is not going to work. And again, just bring all your probes. Like, it doesn't matter. Just do it, you know? Like, just sit them here, right? And you can just move on with your build. And again, if they're making so many lings, one way you could lose is if you just, if you walk out and then they kind of backstab you. So don't ever let this wall out. To really put the nail in the coffin, you should just get a Corsair and tech it immediately, because this also hedges against a funny kind of like, you know, Muta Opener or like Muta Rush or something like that. But because he has so many resources, we can kind of effectively deduce that, you know, there's not going to be any of that, right? And then we can go ahead and scout. Oh, it looks like he does have a base there. And we can, you know, get some leg upgrades if we want. And the most important thing is to scout, okay? Like, you don't want to not scout, okay? So he has that going, so I can go ahead and cancel that. We can cancel that as well. And so now that we know that he doesn't have any more tech, right? Then we can just put down a bunch of gateways, right? Because now we can't lose to any sort of drops, right? We can just go ahead and scout everywhere. If you want to be super safe, then, well, you just make another cannon, right? Because why not? Because he has Hydras, right? So if he has Hydras, then the only way he can bust you is up front. But he also only has, you know, like a very limited number of hatcheries, right? So we're not really too concerned about much of anything. And because we have, you know, roughly, what, 44 probes right now, right? We can support, you know, 8 gate production effectively, right? Against Hydras, sometimes it's actually better to, like, leave your Zealots kind of out, you know? And that's because you don't want them to be able to easily bust you, right? But now that we have legs, we can go ahead and just kill him. Surrounding is a good idea. And that should basically be it. Once you have 8 gateways, you basically have like maxed out production, right? And if you really want to be super safe, send a Corsair back to their base, right? And see what they're up to. And again, if they don't have lair tech, then they don't really have much of anything to go off of, right? So if they don't have lair tech, no lair tech means that, yeah, it's just over. So it's super common for people to, you know, like, effectively try to cheese, you know, like that. And you can actually win a lot of games by just not dying to cheese. Just don't die to cheese. If you don't die to cheese, then you can win many games at lower ranks. Okay, so 9 pull speed. You either get 3 cannons. I would just recommend 3 cannons if you're like lower rank. That's like the super safe thing. Or you can just do 2 cannons and then you could block with probes. It depends on your scouting information though. If you have your probe alive and you know, you see that they're making drones after, then you can just keep 2 cannons and use probe block. But you definitely need a probe block, whether you have 3 cannons or 2 cannons. Okay, we have random. So random's obviously not fun to play against if you're PROTOSS. Mainly because of PvZ. But actually, if you just kind of play it patiently, it's actually doable, right? It's more doable than you think, because a lot of new school Zerg players never learn how to play against one-base PROTOSS either. So sometimes it could be fine for you to play one base. But if you always like if you feel like you're defeated before the game even starts or whatever, then, you know, well, then you're hopeless. So pylon a little bit close to the ramp. Oh jeez, so late. Go ahead and pylon search because he's random. Pylon search is okay against Terran. It's not great against PROTOSS or Zerg. So you could opt to be a little bit more economic, but I prefer to figure out what I'm up against. Especially on a 4-player map. Just because the prevalence of cheese is also relatively high if they go random. Like, seldom do they just play random and go like a solid macro build. So we're just gonna go ahead playing normal, like one gate gas tech. You make your gas effectively around 12. You don't want to make your gas too early at 11, actually. I actually didn't know that for the longest time. Like, I used to make my gas immediately, but you're supposed to queue up a probe first and make your gas afterwards. It's not that big of a deal, but it's just one of those small things, because you don't really need the gas that much faster. Okay, we're up against Terran, so we're good. If you get second scout, this is a little bit of a technical response here, but what you should do is you should go ahead and try to steal the gas. If you can't, that's okay. So because this is an educational stream, I'm not gonna play super technical builds, right? Like, we forced the gas because the probe got in. But if you did get, you know, if you did get second scout, you should go ahead and try to threaten to take the gas, because now we just disrupted their build. They freaked out, they're making a bunker, so now we're actually very far ahead. So we're gonna go ahead and just do a 23 Nexus, usually against Rax Expand. Well, it's not Rax Expand. This is like intended to be Rax Expand, and then he switched to making a gas on reaction to me coming out with a faster scout like that, right? So therefore, they're not gonna have a vulture to worry about, right? So we can go ahead and, you know, snipe this down. And then right afterwards, we can go ahead and try to punch down the bunker, because we should have a range, and they won't have a tank to do anything about it. So it's always good to try and, you know, do a little bit of damage. See if we can get that. Nice. Even if you're forcing a bunker repair, it's always a good idea to do that. Go ahead and make a 23 Nexus. So it's 2 goons and then a Nexus. You hold a probe, don't make probes at 23. Then make a pylon as part of your wall, and then you go ahead and make more probes. So now we have 2 goons. Usually the second goon should stay at home. If you're up against factory, because then they can have a vulture that walks into your base. But because we know he can't have a vulture because of the late gas, we can go ahead and punch the bunker down. And then when you have the money, you just go ahead and make a robo. And then when you have the money, you make a 3rd Dragoon. And at around 28, you should go ahead and make another gateway when you can. It's always good practice just to check if they have a CC. Let's just go and look. Yep, they do. So now we're able to just punch it down. And this is economically, we're not as good. Well, actually we're fine because of the way that he had to react to our build. But if this were like a normal Rack CC opener, then we would be behind. And using this, using our goons to punch it down slightly helps us to get back economically, but it's not great. Sometimes they mess up their like SCV, so you can kind of like stop your goons. And then like sometimes they're not watching, and then they're not, they stop to, you know, like repairing. So every now and then you can kind of punish, like, you know, Terran kind of sleeping. And you can make 2 observers, keep making goons. And usually a good benchmark. See what I did there? Like, because I canceled it and they were on autopilot, they you know, lost their bunker, right? So sometimes it's a little trick that you can do, you know, especially at the lower levels. They're probably not watching. I'm not gonna go ahead and kill them, just so I can kind of go on with the build. But anyways, usually at around six goons, that's a pretty standard time to take your third base. And because this is like an educational stream, you know, the most safe way is like upon taking your third base, you can go ahead and like make more gateways to 4 gateways. This really hedges against openers, like, you know, that's really popular these days, you know, especially as it pertains to what am I trying to say? Like those kinds of pushes, right? The early pushes. See what they're doing, make a citadel, right? You can continue goon production. You don't have to make goon production non-stop, but it depends on their build, right? It looks like they want to move out. That's probably a really insane and bad play, but we're not going to punish it. You can keep making some more. Generally speaking, I just like to make more, you know, observers, just because I like having more vision. And once our Stargate's done, I mean our Citadel's done, we can go ahead and make Stargate, Templar Archives, and then that'll eventually allow us to go into Arbiter Tech. So realistically, this guy plays so greedy, like he should not be able to do this, right? Like I could easily punish this. But just because this is educational, I won't. Just because sometimes it's hard for like newer players to recognize these like kind of tight spots, so to speak. So when they go ahead and make a third base so fast like this, they're on 3 factories, that's completely normal. You can go ahead and counter by taking a 4th base immediately. The important part in PvT in general is that just because you make the gateways doesn't mean you actually have to build from them. The gateways are more of a precautionary kind of tool, right? And, you know, you just produce from them based on, you know, whether you are in trouble or not, right? So once you kind of have, like, your preferential, like, your prioritization going, you could, you know, start to make goons, you can make +1 weapons. And around at this time, which is, you know, 100 supply, that's a good benchmark. You can stop making workers, okay? And around this time, you should go ahead and pump up your gateways. It's like 9:30, so it's a nice little timing where like you stop making workers that you're making non-stop, and then you start putting down gateways. If you have 4 bases, I would recommend something like 10 or 12. Around 930 for safety, it's good to practice to just make cannons at every base. Just because dropships can be a thing, although he doesn't have a starport, but we'll just, you know, we'll just do this for good hygiene. Around this time, this is where you'll also just like make sure, okay, do I have like around 20 goons? If you don't, then make a few more. I like making observer speed just because it's just nice to have. And then once your gateways come along, once you get your critical mass of goons, you can go ahead and start making a lot of zealots. Zealots are exactly how, you know, you start to spend a lot of your money, you know? And so he's trying to push out. This is kind of silly, but you always want to try to keep two control groups of goons though, okay? And once you have all your gateways, notice how fast your macro is gonna start like moving up, right? Looks like this guy's actually like trying to push, which is a really crazy thing. Sometimes people just do this. So usually you want to try to like, you know, slow it down as much as you can. You don't want to engage. Just because like right now we have peak production. And for every second that they give us, we get bigger and bigger and bigger. Oh, I don't have leg upgrades. Okay, that's not good. So in this case, you know, this isn't great, but, you know, we can go ahead and try to spread out and attack anyways. It's good to kind of moving shot as well if you can. It's always good to also try to like target fire some of the tanks that are like behind and in range. And so basically what the Terran just did here, this is what I call like a nonsense timing, right? It just doesn't make sense, you know? I mean, sometimes they can go ahead and punish and do these like technical timings, which is fine, but like I would say it's very nonsensy, you know? Like it just doesn't make sense, right? I mean, he's still moving out, right? So this guy's like obviously very interesting. He likes to play, you know, forward a lot. But when you kind of feel this way, like don't feel like you have to like attack immediately, you know? Although here, this guy's just crazy. I mean, so just go ahead and kill him. Like it's not even close. And so this is why for Terrans, like, you can't just randomly attack like this. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it doesn't make sense. I'll keep making your Arbiter production. You know, maybe make another base. I would make some more like observers if you find that they're kind of, you know, kind of annoying. You can remake probes if you're losing them. Generally speaking, I like to make my 5th base at another main base, but in this kind of game, it's actually not the end of the world, just because, like, usually a close base stance like this is a lot more conducive to fighting. So if you want fights, this is good. If you are trying to stay away from the Terran, then you don't want fights, right? Like if they're in a turtle's position, you know, then you don't really want to be, you're not like actively looking for fights. He's just trying to be You know, really annoying with these vultures. And honestly, like sometimes you can just shove, like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes if you're like maxed out and, you know, they're not like super strong, or like you just, you know, felt like you had a big fight or something, like it's not the end of the world to just shove, see what you can get done, right? And then as you fight, always try to remember that you should try to always keep your goons alive. As long as your goons are alive, that's okay, because zealots are very expendable, right? So just kind of double check that, like, oh, my goons are still alive, so I can make zealots. And then if you have the capacity, then you just go ahead and like expand. Usually expanding at like another main base is preferable, just because you can make like additional gateway farms and stuff, so. No, you want to keep the goons alive because vultures counter PROTOSS. Okay, so we lost our army. So let's just presume we lose our army here. So the first thing you always prioritize is to remake all goons. You see how I just made all goons, right? And that part is super important because, again, a good Terran player will always punish this by sending their vultures out immediately on their map. That's how you know you're playing against a good Terran player, because they recognize that the counter to a PROTOSS who's not making goons is vultures. They prioritize vultures over everything else in the universe. Once you have your round of goons back out, you can go ahead and like make some more zealots. And again, just as like a tip, I like to make a control group have one observer at a time. So you see he's like sending his thing outs there, but like he is really aggressive with this. Like, this is absurd. Like, Terran should never be able to do this. Like, Terran should never be this aggressive out on the map like this. So, always gather and make an arc, right? Make an arc. And once you have that arc, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. So, even though my arc isn't even great, it's good. It's always good to just, like, target fire with your goons, even if it's, like, a little bit. But it's not really necessary, so notice my goon count's low, right? So if my goon count's low, let's remake about 10. And he's gonna leave, so. So that turn played really crazy. Like, you know, sometimes people will do that. Well, they'll just like play mega aggressively. And sometimes it works if you know what you're doing. I would say if you're not at least A rank, you should never attempt that. But yeah, that's just what I call a nonsense timing. You should always just be careful about it though, because if Terran gets in position, they could still do a lot of damage. So pretty simple, right? Like I would say PvT is like the most simplest matchup in that regard, where you just sort of macro. I feel like, you know, when you're at C rank, just macroing is probably the easiest thing to do in PvT. I think like, especially if you're not trying to be like, you know, learn like reaver style or more aggressive openers, playing that kind of style where you just make goon arbiter, it's a very macro oriented build, and you can really practice that like in single player and stuff. Yo, Shoop, you ready for the C to S stream? I don't know, Ryan, 6 class. Maybe we'll, you know, maybe. I guess we're just gonna have to see, you know? But yeah, I feel like I don't know how often in lower range Terrans kind of do this nonsense timing. That guy would played really crazy greedy by sending his tanks out to take that third base. The good thing about the build that I showed is like I go third nexus into 4 gate, and if you continue goon production, you can literally just stomp those tanks out there. So I guess I should have done that. I guess I just wanted to show the build first, but you know, I didn't want to. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? Should I just punish them when I see it? Would that be more educational, or should I just like not punish it but call it out? You know, because the punishing stuff requires a little bit of like intuition, right, and experience, which like lower players might not really have. But I guess it's still good for them to like know, oh, this is something you can do, right? But yeah, that guy played insanely greedy. It was crazy. I think I got away with is way too much. Way too much. Yeah, okay. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I'm not really doing anything crazy anyways. I might hit Zen on the way, yeah. Just catching. You want to die, Doctor? Am I stuck? Oh, everything's blurred. Yeah. Hopefully you can still watch StarCraft though, right? Yeah. Alright, PvP. I feel like PvP is always a little bit challenging. I would assume that people think PvP is very coin flippy, and it is. I would like to play 1 gate Robo, but I feel like 1 gate Robo is pretty bad on this map. I feel like I'm doing a disservice of playing it, but we'll do it anyways. We'll do it anyways. You know, because we're supposed to be bad, right? So this is like, how do you play? I just want to play one build throughout the entire stream. Or maybe I'll just ban this map, actually. Yeah, maybe I'll just ban this map. Because reverse ramps play out a little bit differently. Because you don't have ramp advantage when you're defending. But I think 1 gate Robo, it's not the easiest build to play, but I do think it's helpful for newer players to learn, just because it helps stabilize. It brings a little bit of like order to the chaos that is PvP, right? So even though playing 1 gate Robo might not yield you the fastest and easiest wins, it certainly would help you understand the matchup better, which I think is important. Just for the long run, just so you don't kind of view PvP as like this, you know, nasty matchup where, you know, you just hate it all the time and it's just a giant coin flip. But yeah, it does suck on this map, but I'll change the map pool. I just don't want to change my build for the stream. I'll make that 11, 12 gas. I also usually like to like F2 camera key my natural when I have a second. Oh shoot, I messed up my pro scout already. Make a cyber core. The lag is pretty bad. You gotta keep an eye out for the lag. It's actually pretty consequential in case they go for 2 gateways. That's a cyber core, same build. So at 16, we want to go for pylon. You can also like harass their gas like this. It's more annoying for them to deal with. And you do want to try and practice keeping your probe alive in their base up until 310. 310 is when the Dragoon starts to pop out, right? And this is because what we're looking for is to see if they put down any other tech, most notably if they're putting down another pylon, okay? Sometimes you can get it, but sometimes you can't. We can't quite see anything, right? So here we'll deduce, okay, we don't see the pylon, so we don't really know what they're doing. So we're gonna go out. I'm just send my probe out to like the top up there for a bit. I'll make another, oops. I'll make a pylon at 22. And then I will go ahead and make another Dragoon. So I like to send my probe out, you know, somewhere else, somewhere out here. Because I'd like to go and scout later. And then I also like to bring my units out front. Because in case their probe comes in, you kind of block their ability to see what you're doing. We'll also go ahead and make a robo at 26 near the ramp, right? Another thing is like if they have a pylon near the ramp, that could be indicative that they might be going for a 1-gate robo play just because of that. Now it's not perfect, but you know, it's at least something. Another thing is we keep this probe out here. I just made a pylon just cause I need to make it somewhere. Sometimes it's not a bad idea to have it like out there, but you can like, you know, put it out there in the, you know, the corner of your base or something. But basically you want to time this so that your probe comes back to their base at around 4:45:50. Okay? So in about a few seconds we're gonna send it out. And what we're trying to check for is whether they're going for a 2-gate timing push. That should be coming out right about now. Make their observatory. See if their units are still at home. If they're still at home, you pull back right away. Pull back. Pull back. Okay, so this is a 2-gate. Yep, you see that? And we'll want to just hold the ramp. And then we'll make a observer. And go ahead and try to snipe this. You always want to try and target fire. Now this might not work out for us because we're on reverse ramp, unfortunately. Unfortunately, this guy might be able to get the best of us there, unfortunately. So we're probably dead. But let's see if we can try to salvage it. So we can wait for that goon to come out. And then yeah, now it's just over. And this is why you shouldn't be doing this build on this map. Because if you had the ramp advantage, then you should easily be able to hold that. But let's just ban that map. So this is what you do when you struggle with the map. You just ban it instead of trying to figure it out. I guess we'll play Minstrel. Okay, right? Take out Dominator. But anyways, let's say it was not a reverse ramp, right? Then what you would do is like, if you didn't see their units around their ramp like that, obviously go in to check, but that means the 2-gate timing that moves out at around 4:45 to 5 minutes. And they come out with 4 goons and 1 zealot at your natural. So that's your cue to step back, back up your ramp and play defensively. Now, if you're playing cross positions or a map that has a large rush distance, then you actually don't need to go back up your ramp. You just need to go and like your 4th Dragoon will come out, and as long as you're in position, you could defend it without moving back up your ramp. So that's something that's like a little detail to keep in mind, that you could defend things. You can defend a 2-gate push with 1 gate if it's cross spawn and you've been making goons nonstop. What's up, Moonride? You gotta watch the stream. It's the educational stream. We're trying to get out of C rank. You think you can get out of C rank? Have I ever been Marine Medic C Chinks PvT? Yeah. Nyokin does that. Alright, got PvZ. Let's see how... let's see how nasty C-rank Zergs are. Gosh, it's so laggy, man. It's crazy. Why is this guy so laggy, man? Is he North American or is he European or something or what? This is insanely bad. Good grief. Should I even play this? Wait, is it me? Am I lagging? What's going on? This is like pretty unplayably bad. I'm gonna leave actually. It's actually like legit super slow. Hope that wasn't me. Dude, Eskia, that's your friend, man. It's your friend. It's lagging up the games, dude. All right, let's try to see if we can play a reasonable PvZ. I feel like this PvZ build is honestly pretty stable. That said, Zergs, I'm sure Zergs on ladder and like lower ranks do all kinds of like garbage. So I feel like getting to S in PvZ is really about just like learning all the garbage that Zerg can throw at you, and then once you kind of have like general heuristics for how to defend them, then I think it should be relatively more straightforward. I think PvZ is generally a pretty simple matchup. Despite being a hard matchup, it's a pretty simple matchup. So, oops, we're gonna pylon scout because we're gonna go for forge fast expand. We're gonna make that forge at 11. And then we'll double scout. You always want to make sure you study your forge walls as well, right? See if he's here. Not there. So we would have seen the creep. This is going to be a 3 gap wall. 2 zealots there, 1 zealot there. And based off of what we scout, that'll dictate whether or not we need to make a cannon or not. You can just rally your 13th or your 14th worker there. Okay, so that looks like a 12 hatch. That is what we're gonna punish. So if the hatchery is the hatchery is like already done or like started before 2 minutes, then that means you're most likely playing against a you know, and in this case I think this guy's just dead. You know, like I don't even need to wall off. You can go ahead and make a cannon at your natural like this too. If you have two cannons that are successfully gonna be built like this, then it's basically game over. Like they can't really do this. So I just made a cannon at my main base just so that they're unable to do anything about it. Now we can go ahead and like block their creep colonies from being made, right? I'm gonna go ahead and expand. Actually, it looks like the 2 Sunkens are actually gonna hold, huh? Crazy. Look at that. Okay. I thought I didn't need the pylon, but I guess you did need it. Okay, we'll play on then. So we'll call it a handicap. We'll call that a handicap. We'll call it a handicap. So we're gonna go in with our build. Make our tech really fast. We want to send probes on over. Oh! I was like attacking my egg. Oh my god. What a disaster. I was just attacking my own egg, so he's just like rallying a bunch of things in. Alright, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna we got +1 ground weapons going, and we're basically gonna go for a speed zealot push. You want to keep making workers as much as you can. Try to make non-stop zealots as well. Interesting that he's actually showing us this by not killing that. And we'll get the second gas after the second gateway, okay? And the reasoning for that is we're going to want to tech into Templar Archives after we have speed. So this is just like the general concept. You want to go ahead and block your wall all the time, hold position, legs, right? And then once you have the money and the gas, you want to go ahead and make Templar Archives. And you keep making more zealots and probes. Honestly, like making probes nonstop is so important, especially before a certain time, right? Especially before 7 minutes. Like, it's so important to have nonstop worker production. And then now we're gonna go ahead and make gateways 3 and 4. Make sure you also don't get supply blocked. If you're worried about like hydras or something, then you can go ahead and make a second cannon. However, if you're going for this build, because it skips Stargate, you have speed zealots very fast. And when you have speed zealots very fast, you are a lot safer. And if you're worried about any sort of hydra bus in general, then what you want to do is just like keep your zealots out front to tank. Just don't lose them. And because we're skipping Corsair, we need to have anti-air, right? So we're going to make a cannon at both bases. Now, I don't suspect that we'll really need it. Oh, looks like... But because he's going Hydra, we can go ahead and do this. And you want to kind of do like an orb walk, so to speak. Like move, attack, move, attack, move, attack, move, attack. And you can just go ahead and like A-move it, you know. I'm going to keep the cannons there even though they're not really necessary. And I'm just going to move immediately to 8 gateways because I have 41 plus probes. So like you see this gateway explosion is actually really important for you to get very fast, right? And so because he has a sunken colony over there, let's try going the other way. Make more High Templars if you can. Oh, looks like my pylon blocked. See if there's a base there. Looks like there's not. And now we're rolling, right? We have full production. I'm also going to make a Dark Archon because we want to not die to mutas. I'm going to make a second cannon. And we're just going to keep making more units. So usually with this, you should have at least 3 High Templars. I made 4. You can usually afford more gas if you don't go Corsairs like this, right? And basically just keep pumping as much as you can. Make sure you don't like lose units. Looks like he has some Hydras, right? Make sure you don't get supply blocked. It's also probably a good idea to start getting like range for your goons and also Maelstrom for the Dark Archon. And a good little trick, like a good macro trick to have is like you make zealots until you have 400 gas, okay? And this is like a good heuristic just to kind of like build some rhythm in your build, right? And the reason for that is if we have 400 gas, you can go ahead and make 1 goon per 8 gateways, right? That way, your dragoons pop out all at once, right? And you'll have 8 gateways and 8 goons, right? And if you have 2 rounds of those, then what happens is that you're just gonna be left with a nice 8 sets of, 2 sets of 8 goons, which is 16. And you can keep making workers. Right. And the reason why that's like a nice number is because this is also a good time to expand. When your first round of goons expand, it's a good time to, expand yourself. I don't know if I said that right, but because now you kind of have a little bit more safety. Ideally, we would have wanted to have, you know, an observer faster, but because we don't, you know, we're just gonna kind of wait it out. And the reason why goons help us to expand safely is because it gives us ranged units, right? And if we have ranged units, then what we're able to do is we're able to just not get picked apart by hydras dancing around everywhere, right? So what we want to do here is we're going to go ahead and take this next base. We have a nice PROTOSS army. We want to make some cannons, and right when our observer comes out, we're going to go ahead and go for a giant push. It's also good practice to just start making more workers, like once you start your third base, so that once it finishes, you can go ahead and, you know, transfer 12 immediately. You know, make like 3-4 cannons. I would keep making more goons, right? Now I have 2 upgrades, right? Plus 2 weapons, although lately it's a little bit more preferable to go armor. And once this comes out, we're gonna go ahead and attack. We're gonna go ahead and push and set up for it. And usually when I like to attack, I like to make 2 High Templars behind. The reason for that is you want to make sure you can kind of reload your bullets, so to speak, right? If and when your, you know, your attack and your push is done. It's just good practice. It's just good hygiene to do that. Okay. Now, one really important thing here is this is where your attention should be focused on your combat here, okay? So let's just try to get all of our goons together, okay? Slowly send, you know, send this forward. Okay, you don't have anything, right? So it's okay to, you know, not focus on other things, right? Bring these forward. I like to make zealots behind as reinforcements, right? And it looks like he's just staying back, which is fine. But again, it's good practice to practice this, right? Like observer, goon, High Templar first, okay? And just watch, right? If they bring units forward, storm. If not, don't storm, right? See? If they bring them forward. Okay, looks like we're getting flanked. Can storm. Usually Zerg gets very sloppy like this. Make another round of zealots, so you have a nice healthy set of reinforcements. And let's do the same thing, right? It's really important to the focus here. Don't like, you could A move, we will just win here, but it's really good to practice just like, okay, we're gonna have some goons, bring the goons up front, and we're gonna move the goons up one by one, right? Like this, okay? And by doing this, this allows you to just be very, very focused on your storming and your goons, okay? And it's okay if your money is going up. That's the key point here. It's okay if your money is going up, okay? Because you're focusing on the most important thing right now. And now, things are over. And we win. So, we did fail the cannon rush, but that's okay. He allowed us to play on with our build. Yeah, dude, PoE concept. We're doing some cross-pollination, you know? But basically that build is really strong because most Zerg players don't know how to properly stop a zealot push. And we're basically abusing the fact that most Zerg players are bad. At this rate, like at this rank. Okay, so we have a Random B rank. We're gonna go ahead and do a pylon scout. Unfortunately, random is just frustrating, but that's okay. The most important thing to understand about random is that the vast majority of players who play random cannot have always have a main race, and 2 of those races are not their main race. Therefore, you have a 67% chance that you're playing them at a worse level, if that makes sense, right? So kind of think of it that way. Don't think of it as like, oh darn, like I'm playing random and my opponent can play all races competently, right? In fact, it's more that, you know, you don't know what it is, so you're disadvantaged, but you're advantaged in the sense that you have a 2/3 chance you're playing against their weaker race. So you should kind of keep that in mind as you're playing against random, right? You should not be scared of random, unless they're a smurf or whatever, then fine. But generally speaking, random actually favors you. That's the mindset that you have to have when you're playing against random. You shouldn't get frustrated. If you get frustrated, then you've already given your opponent an advantage. So we're gonna pylon search. We're gonna open gas until we see otherwise. No search. And, you know, if they do something donkey, like some sort of cheese in the middle, then just let them do it. You know, it's okay. It's okay to lose. Gas is a little bit late. You shouldn't overly panic about things for which you cannot control. And sometimes you just lose games, and that's okay. You should not be upset about that. Okay, looks like we have PvP. Now we're gonna play a proper 1-gate robo. Because now we don't have a reverse ramp, so he has 1 gateway, has a cyber core, right? Build looks pretty fresh. We're gonna go on with our build. My gas is late, but that's okay. His zealot should pop out at around the same time I'm popping out, right? It's always good to just, like, you know, bother them, but if that's okay, you don't have to do that. They might have a zealot out, right? So their build is the same, but I'm actually okay here because they haven't scouted me and I scouted them. I wouldn't cut corners because there's a difference, like there's a difference between cutting corners and playing overly cautious. I think those are 2 very different concepts. It's 310, so we're gonna run our probe out because their goon is gonna come out, right? At 22, we make a pylon. And again, we're gonna throw our probe over here. And then we're gonna make a dragoon when we can. And bring it out front. Bring this out front, rally this one out, and we're gonna try to make a 26 robo. So this is gonna be a 1-gate robo. And again, this is kind of a catch-all build to bring stability into the matchup. Okay, so again, we're gonna bring our probe out here. We're gonna run the probe back in at around 430. Or let's just bring it up closer. Oops, looks like my robo's late. That's okay. We'll just, you know, play this like we're a C rank player who doesn't have perfect builds. But yeah, there's a difference between cutting corners and panicking by trying to cover everything. Does that make sense? I would not cut corners. I would just try to play reasonably well to just cover the vast majority of scenarios and then just accept sometimes you're just gonna lose, right? So let's just send our probe back in. Let's see if they're gonna come out with a push. Usually that push is 4 goons and 1 zealot if they go for a 21, a 2 gateway push. Let's snipe this so they can't see what we're up to. So notice that they're not going out for an attack, which means this is not a 2 gateway push. Okay, so what can this be, right? This could be a Dark Templar, right? This could be 1 gate robo. This can be 3 gates, right? So this is what we have to think about, right? Now I can send another probe out if I wanted. And maybe we can just do that. Let's just send a probe out and we'll rally it back home, okay? Right after we make our observatory, we will make a reaver. I'm short on gas, unfortunately, because I messed up my build a little bit. Right? So I'm actually going to make a zealot after this. And that's not ideal, but it's okay, because zealots are actually good in PvP. So I'm going to send this out. You don't have to do this, but this is, you know, sometimes good, because if it were a 3-gate push, they would be coming out right now, right? So because it's not a 3-gate push, what can we now deduce, right? We can now deduce that it is either going to be a 1-gate robo, right? Or maybe they went for a fast nexus, or maybe it's Dark Templar, so I'm going to keep my observer out here. Actually, I'm going to move the observer forward because I'm making a second one, and I'm making that second one basically for safety, right? And usually you can build kind of like a pylon up like that, so that you can kind of wall off, so to speak. Afterwards, you want to make your second gateway. So again, you eventually get your nexus based on how safe you feel. And that's sometimes going to be a little bit, you know, based on your different comfort levels, so to speak. I personally like to make speed shuttle if I've confirmed that they've indeed gone for an expansion. And if they haven't, okay, they do have an expansion. This means that I should not die to anything, right? So they have an expansion faster than mine. And there looks like it's Nexus into 3-gate. And looks like this is actually just completely skipping any sort of detection. So this is kind of like a donkey build, right? Like this is very, very, very donkey, right? And one way that you can actually counter this is cancel the speed and upgrade damage, okay? And it looks like he might even just go out for attack here. And again, you want to target fire with your reavers. You see how I'm target firing with my reavers? Don't really focus too much on don't really focus too much of your attention on like your goons. If your goons are in a good position, use your reavers to target fire, okay? And when you target fire, basically you want to just kind of get clusters, okay? And what we're gonna attempt to do here is move up to 4 gateways, and because he's skipping reavers, right, he's just gonna go straight into like mass, you know, whatever. And so we're gonna try to go for a really strong push. Oh, it looks like he is actually going for a robo, but because his robo's so late, he doesn't have tech, right? So if he doesn't have tech, what can we do? We're gonna abuse the fact that he doesn't have tech, okay? And we're going to do that by pushing him once our reavers are out. So basically the objective of the game here is we're going to focus on our push. Okay, so I'm going to focus on making sure I keep making a bunch of units, right? Looks like he actually retreated back home because he's worried about reavers. He has to be. And then once my, you know, my shuttle's out, my damage upgrade should be done. And let's start moving out. And notice how I'm just continuing to make a bunch of units. And again, you want to be careful. Again, you want to try to like micro your reavers. Always prioritize the reaver control, right? And if you're scared, that's okay. Just, you know, kind of take it slow, right? We expect him to have a lot of goons here, right? And he doesn't really have other stuff, right? Like other tech, right? So you can kind of send your observers forward and maybe use your observers over there to kind of just see like, okay, where's my opponent? Spread out. And sometimes it's good to just crawl your reavers forward, right? And sometimes, again, you don't have to macro all the time. You can just kind of like move them forward. Make sure you're not too far forward so they can't like snipe you, right? And as you fire it, you can just kind of move back and they might target fire and then, you know, they'll have to eat some costs if they want to do that. Again, It's okay if you're not macroing very well. It's more important that you are, you know, well positioned, taking things slow. And you know, you don't have to kind of like spaz out all the time. So we'll just kind of slowly crawl in, right? And this is the most important part, right? Make sure your reavers are not too far away from your shuttle. And if they are, move them back. And again, the most important part, target fire clusters with your reavers, okay? Don't worry about your goons, okay? And now we should be able to go in. I think we can just Rambo in and we should just win. And always try to target fire with your goons as well. If you can, it's always great practice. And we win. So notice like the most important part that you have to get from these instructional videos is, you know, the build is important and the logic is important, but like notice that when I'm entering into combat, I'm okay with not macroing, right? Notice that my money goes up to 2,000. That's okay. That's actually the right thing to do, okay? And that is counterintuitive to a lot of people, right? Because we're going to always want to spend our money. We're always going to want to expand. We're always going to want to go on with our build, with our, you know, Citadel and Forge and like make more units, make more probes, macro, right? But that only is important when you're in the stage of macroing, right? But when you're actually going into combat, you have to focus on the combat, right? If you can't micro both your goons and your reavers, then prioritize. Micro your reavers and leave your goons alone, okay? And as you get better and better, you can micro both of them. But the priority always has to be correct. You cannot deprioritize your reavers and start microing your goons, right? Now, the only exception to that is if you are targeting your opponent's reavers or your opponent's shuttles. And that's going to be a decision that you have to make in the moment, right? And that really just depends on the proximity of your goons to their reaver and shuttle, or their goons to your reaver shuttle. Now, if they don't have any reavers, well then, you know, like think of your reavers as like precious cargo. Like it's kind of like an objective, like, you know, in like a game where you have to like deliver a civilian across a mission or something, right? That's basically the way that you should think about your reavers. You shouldn't just kind of like move and just hope that things work out, because if you control your reavers, especially two of them with damage upgrade, even if you don't have damage upgrade, if you target fire with those two reavers, they can pop 3 goons in one go, okay? You fire them, walk back, you fire them again, and you go for clusters, and every time you do that, you have a chance to kill like 6, 7, 8 goons in 2 shots. Right? And that's way more important than you microing your dragoons, because your dragoons do flat damage, your reavers do scaling damage, right? So just think in your head, do I want to micro my goons, pull them back, target fire, and just do like, you know, damage that's like, you know, 1 for 1? Or do I want to micro my scaling units, my bazookas, which are my reavers, right? And my reavers can have the potential to kill 3 or 4 goons at once. Right? So you really have to prioritize. I can't emphasize that enough. Stop macroing. Stop making workers. Stop making your Citadel. Stop making your Forge. Stop expanding. Float 5,000 minerals. That is the right thing to do at that time, okay? That's the most important thing. And as you get better, then you can start to macro. Then you can start to move on. Then you can multitask, right? But don't put multitasking before the combat. Does that make sense, guys? Like, don't... You know what I mean? Like the point of the game isn't to just get big and make a bunch of stuff. The point of the game is to win the game, right? And sometimes you have to sometimes you can't lose sight of that, right? Especially at this lower level, you know, especially at this lower level. Now, as you start to like get better and better and better, like of course you have to multitask. You have to do a lot of other stuff. But but for this, you really have to I would say like for getting better at the game, you know, it's like you can't play it too linearly, so to speak. Dan MD, thanks for the sub, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll put it out on YouTube. See if we can actually find some games. All right, here we go. No problem, man. I'm on parental leave, so I have like time every night to play for like a couple of hours, so why not? Okay, another PvP. Thanks. Alright, so we're gonna do one gate robo again, okay? Thanks, guys. Again, I'm showing one gate robo because it brings order to the chaos that is PvP. Okay, I'm not saying one gate robo is the easiest build. It is just the most stable build. I'll put it that way. Nash, thanks for the sub. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it'll just be like a lazy upload, right? F2, that's the natural. And I feel like maybe PROTOSS at this level tends to play without reavers a lot. Like, for example, I'm not sure how often people do what I just saw over there, like where he was just like skipping. He went like 4 gates, no detection, like crazy gambling mode, right? Like that's the kind of play that you should not do, right? Like he is playing specifically ignoring Dark Templars and playing very it's just bad StarCraft. Like don't do that. Okay? Don't do that. Like, try to plug in, try to play, if you're trying to get better and, you know, you're not like all-inning and stuff, try to play in such a way that you cover 90 to 95% of situations and then live with losing those, you know, 5 or 10% of games, right? That's a good way to like always get better. Now you could use easier build orders to kind of like, you know, effectively function as like a, you know, like training wheels, right? A lot of these builds that I'm using here are not like the meta builds and stuff, and that's intentional. But you should, if you're playing a build, at least try to consider how to play against your opponent's, like 90% of your opponent's range, so to speak, right? That's a good way to think about it. And then if you, again, if you get like 9-9 gated or proxy racks or whatever, then just, you know, deal with it, right? All right, so this looks like this person did, oh, same build. Looks like he just has a much faster build than me because he's just probably superior. And do you guys remember when we have to pull out our probe? Lagoon, range, 22 pylon. Goon's about to pop. When is that though? No range. Citadel. 310. Range Citadel, right? Okay, so now it's possible they could just be bamboozling us, right? It's possible it's just bamboozling us. So we should be careful. Don't believe this. Don't get too excited yet. Let's kill this probe. But notice the way that I'm playing is completely reactive to what our opponent's doing, and I'm not really changing what I'm doing, right? I'm just reacting. Like, I mean, I am changing, I'm like modifying my builds based, I'm playing my decision tree, right? I'm not I'm not going crazy. I'm not trying to meta or like mind game my opponents, right? You know, like I'm just reacting to what I see, right? So my opponent's range is they went for the fastest, not fastest, but one of the fastest DT openers. Therefore, we need to have a observer out. However, this still could be Citadel into speed lots, right? It's very uncommon, but it's still a possibility, right? So you want to consider that. Consider that in your mind, right? Consider that it might not be DT. It can be Citadel. Citadel, 4-gate, 3-gate Citadel is kind of a donkey build, but it is a build, okay? So what do we want to do, right? We want to just play it defensively, right? Again, I didn't bring my probe back there because I didn't find it to be that meaningful, right? The reason for that is I know that he's not going to go for a 2-gate push because he already made a Citadel, and I already know that he doesn't have range, or his range is going to be really late, right? So we're going to continue with our build. But remember, he's not going to have goons. He can't have goons, right? So why should I be too far out? You see how my positioning for my units are very close to the ramp, right? And the reason for that is if I see him come up and, you know, do something crazy, then at least I can always defend it, right? In addition, if I have my units blocking like this, notice that if a Dark Templar does come, what do they have to do? They have to go around all these units. I'm making a wall with these, right? So a Dark Templar can't just slip right by. So because I'm making 2 observers, I'm going to go ahead and make a Nexus, and I can go ahead and cancel that Nexus if my opponent's going for speed zealots, okay? So now I have two of these, right? And I'm just going to play this very, very safe. This looks like a Dark Templar open. Maybe he has an expansion. That's what I'm going to guess. Right. Oh, it looks like he has goons. Or maybe he canceled it. He's just bamboozling me. Looks like he does have a Nexus. Makes sense. And when they have a Nexus like this and they skipped their stuff, what I'm going to do is upgrade speed. Okay, I'm going to shuttle speed. Looks like this person is just playing very, very donkey. Right. Oh, shoot. Okay, that's not good. And when you're in a stationary, so that was really bad for me to lose that, but that's okay, because sometimes we lose our units, right? At this rank, we just mess up. Okay, so we don't panic, right? So what's the situation, right? He still has a Citadel, right? Which means he can make Templar Archives. He's going for a Forge, which means he's not going for a Robo, right? If he's not going for a Robo, then what is he vulnerable to, right? Let's think about this. What is he vulnerable to? He's vulnerable to a 2 reaver push, right? Because he cannot have the same tech as me, correct? You guys tracking with me? He can't have reavers in his defense, and he cannot have High Templars. Maybe he'll have High Templars right as I attack. So what does this mean? I have to prioritize making units until I get to the point where I'm attacking, right? So it looks like he might actually even be moving out, which I think is crazy. Now he's making Templar Archives. I'm gonna make more goons. I'm gonna make a second gas. Let's not get supply blocked. Okay, so let's see if he's gonna come out. Usually if you can get the Zealot out first, right? That's usually a good idea. What am I supposed to do? Prioritize. Oh, well, I lost it. That's okay. Now we prioritize making our goons, or target firing goons, right? So in order to kill all that, he lost a lot of stuff, right? He lost a lot of his units, right? So we're not, you know, it was bad for us to lose that fight, right? But that's okay. Like, don't panic, okay? we're gonna go ahead and, you know, try to see what we can do. We're gonna try to poke in, because maybe we have more goons than he does, right? And so now we don't have reavers, and because we don't have reavers, what we're gonna try to do is like see if we can target fire and, you know, get some damage done. If not, we just back up, right? See, he's like making a bunch of units. He's panicking, right? Right? So I have a lot more units, right? Killed an Archon, so notice he has a lot there. So now we're gonna go ahead and make Citadel Forge. When you want to tech, usually you want to tech at the same time, okay? Now we have Reaver. We're gonna keep making stuff as we gather. So notice how like I'm making my macro in between fights. I'm not trying to overextend and like do things all the time with perfect stuff, right? I'm just trying to macro when I can, right? We can go ahead and make a, you know, some cannons just in case they have like a stray Dark Templar, right? And now that we have our Reaver, right? Let's just focus again on this Reaver, right? Now I don't have two Reavers, and maybe I should, right? But that's okay. Let's just attack and let's see what happens, right? Let's just try to attack. Try to get up there. See, boom, right? Can I get one more? Get the High Templar, right? Oh, I didn't kill it. Okay. Make sure you're not too far away, right? And like, let's just try to get up there. Okay. Can I get the High Templar? That's nice, right? Can I get one more? Notice, like, I'm not really doing anything else other than trying to, you know, control this Reaver, right? Okay, now he's coming in. Let's move back. Let's try to move back. Let's try to control this Reaver again. Okay, now we're getting hits. Can we try to save this? Maybe. I saved the Reaver still. Again, the Reaver's still the most important unit in my army. Now let's just move everything. Okay, so he killed that. That's okay. Now let's move back. Okay, go back. Let's macro. Let's go pick up another. You know, we're losing some units, but that's okay, right? That's okay. We prioritized the right set of actions that we needed to, right? And so we are happy with our decisions. We're gonna come back, pick up our Reaver. Try to macro a little bit, right? At this point, you can also start like mixing in some zealots. Usually it's good to just try to keep your like arc going, right? And around this time, if you can, maybe even consider making another base, right? And oh, we lost it. That's okay, right? So we got another one. Because they have High Templar and we don't, unfortunately we're just gonna have to play without that. We're gonna make an arc, and then when they come in, we're gonna move, and again, drop the Reaver. What do we do? Prioritize the Reaver. Try to get into these, like, you see these money shots? Boom! Headshot! That's nice. You can chase them, but make sure you don't lose the Reaver. And some of the easiest ways to play PvP is just like, I just made 4 High Templars if you just didn't notice, right? Make 4 High Templars and Zealots at this point. And we're gonna retreat. We're gonna retreat. And we're gonna make an arc, you know, we're gonna make an arc. Make some workers if we have it, right? Make some upgrades, right? You know, maybe make some more stuff. Make sure we don't get supply blocked. We're gonna make more Archons. See, I'm trying to make like pairs of Zealots and Archons. And here's what we're gonna do. Even though Storm is good, Archons are also very good. And it's also really easy. They're much easier to play, okay? So let's wait for a few Archons and gather. And we're gonna just go ahead and send another you know, our workers over because we're still macroing. See, right now I'm not in combat, right? I'm not really doing anything else, right? Usually it's really important to get your gas when you can. Okay, so now we're gonna set up an arc. Okay, and now that we have our army, we're just gonna go 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, and hope that this works out, okay? 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. We're gonna drop our reaver. I'm gonna prioritize the reaver still. Okay, just try to get the money clumps. Money clumps. Money clumps. I don't care if he's storing me. Money clumps. Money clumps. Right here? Right there? Money clumps. Pretty good, right? You can make a bunch of units. Let's see if he has a third base. If he doesn't have a third base, great. Well, he does have a third base. Money clump. Make another base. And because usually like Zealot Archon is so easy, like you don't have to, I mean you can micro. I would say that like it's not as consequential, right? Just because like they're very A-movie, but if you play with something like you know, reavers and stuff, then you really need to focus your attention there. Back up. Make sure you also just have observers, right? Generally speaking, like you don't want to get caught off guard. Usually it's also like pretty good practice to, you know, just effectively, you know, like just have them, you know, don't like lose silly games because like a random Dark Templar just like popped by and stuff, you know. It's also probably good practice to like send a Zealot to like both corners, make sure you're not like facing any sort of like funny you know, bases and stuff. Again, we're like only playing, oh, you see that? Like sometimes they just try to like do some crazy stuff. And if you feel like you have like a pretty good army and you know, we just kill this base, right? Like it's good to just kind of shove. Make sure your army is like all kind of together. Okay, looks like they have it there. Try to spread them out so that you don't get like completely, you know, you don't get like completely stormed all at once, right? You know that they're here. Try to like, you know, try to get like a nice arc going, right? Usually like notice how like there's times when I don't focus on my combat because it's more important for me to go back and macro, right? And that's because when you have A moving units, there's diminishing returns. Did you guys catch that? When I went like 1, 2, 3, right? 1A, 2A, 3A, right? I went back at home and I started macroing, right? And again, why am I doing that theoretically, right? Theoretically, I'm doing that because the return on investment for every action spent during my combat with these kinds of units in that situation is not going to yield a higher return because these are very straightforward units. I don't have any casters, right? I don't have reavers here, right? If I had reavers, I would be focusing my attention on the reavers rather than macroing. So notice how like the attention allocation is different based off the units that you have in the situation, and that's basically what StarCraft is, right? How do you allocate the right attention relative to which action yields the most returns, right? And so again, if you have a bunch of A moving units like Zealots, Goons, and Archons, you got a good arc, you know you got a good attack going. You can incrementally fight better by target firing, by spreading. Those are all important. I'm not saying they're not important, but sometimes, like when you start getting like, you know, very easy to maneuver units, then you can just go ahead and go back in macro, right? But when you're maneuvering with reavers or high scale units where they have scaling damage, right? Reavers, or let's say you have High Templars, you don't want to be going back home in macro. Focus your attention on those. And you also don't want to focus like on Zealots and Goons. Just focus on the high value units. All right, more PvP, huh? What is this, Pantheon? I don't really know how to play these new maps, honestly, so I might be griefing you guys here, but I'll do my best. Even if we lose, that's okay. Like, part of the process is losing, but also like learning why we lost, you know? So it's okay to lose. I'm surprised all these PvP we've played so far have not been, there's no 2-gators. I feel like 2-gate is going to be the most popular build at these levels, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Four-player map, so we're going to get 10-gate and then scout on 10. You can also mineral boost this guy up here, it's the easiest one. Right as it finishes, you press C, return cargo, and notice it takes a faster path. So it's just a small thing you can do if you're just like trying to practice like naive mechanics. Gateway search is very standard for 4-player maps. On 2-player maps, you can gas search. Gas search gives you enough time to scout for any sort of proxy 2 gates. And such on 2-player maps, but on 4-player maps you want to do a this kind of search, and this should adequately allow you to defend against just about everything. If you get last search against, you know, 2-gate, it's unfortunate, but you know, it's playable because you can just micro. Okay, so this is a 2-gateway. Okay, so how do we play against 2 gateways? This is probably the hardest thing to do for new players, right? If you run into this, right, I would actually just make 2 on gas. 2 on gas is fine. And what we want to do is we want to scout to see what are they trying to do, right? There's a lot of variations of 2 gateways, right? 2 gateways, oftentimes they could go for something called a 21 gas. So after they make their 3 zealots, they make a gas immediately. So they made their first one, right? Let's see if he proceeds to make another gas. No gas, right? And so they might actually be making a lot more things, right? So one little trick that I like to do is like, I like to just like send my probe out and just shift click back into the gas. And here's how you want to defend against this. You get range. The second your goon pops out, send it out. Okay, send it out into the map. So he should not be doing this because now he's taking free hits. And now what we want to do is we want to get as much DPS done as possible before we get back into the base, okay? Boom, shot. So I got 2 shots, right? 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Block the ramp, target fire. See, notice that it's just 2 on 1. Target fire. block. Don't lose the zealot. And run it away. And we've now successfully defended it, right? Looks like he wants to expand. Oh! That's close. So one important thing is you sometimes just want to make sure that like they don't have stray zealots just kind of around. So I just kind of like to send stuff around. And he opts to go for a Nexus follow-up, right? Which means his tech is going to be really slow, right? So what does this mean? I can either try to match his, you know, thing, or I can opt to maybe just even go for a bust, right? And who knows if the bust is going to work, right? But we're just trying to play like logically here, right? Just try to play logically, and we're just going to focus on getting a reaver, goons, and then sending them out, okay? So I'm prioritizing that above, you know, like anything else, right? So I made a second gateway. I want to keep making some more units. And I'm just sending my goons around because sometimes you have like stray zealots, and those stray zealots kind of just like screw with you a little bit. And in PvP, you do want to try to take advantage of the fact that they have later tech, okay? So if they have later tech, that is an issue, okay? And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to prioritize the reaver again, right? The reaver is gonna allow us to, you know, it gives us long range. Let's position our goons, right? And you can even just have them like, you know, on hold position, whatever works. If you want, you can even just have like the, you can even just have like the zealot up front as well to like soak damage in case they move forward, right? And again, like I'm just gonna keep prioritizing units. If I can make it work, I can make it. Maybe I'll even send out a probe just to like start, you know, expanding in case this fails, right? This is not an all-in, by the way. We expect to get damage done as long as we don't like completely flop this attack. So now we have the Reaver on the way. We also have an Observer on the way, just in case he's like rushing Dark Templars. And again, we're gonna do the same exact thing, okay? We're just gonna prioritize the Reaver, right? We're gonna fire. Boom, move back. Is he coming? Nope. Boom. Boom. Prioritize the Reaver. Boom. 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 And it should be game over. Remember, 5 goon shots can one shot a goon. And again, you know, we're just focusing on the micro because this is the most important thing. We've effectively won the battle, right? Keep microing. Again, you know, they don't have any other tech units. So just target fire goons as you can. Now I can go ahead and make, you know, some more stuff if you want. Again, if you want to prioritize the goons. Try to get the money shots over and over. You can keep going. See, I'm like trying to target fire constantly. Well, not there, I guess. I should have target fired. That's not good. But it's okay. So again, notice like, again, whenever I have the reavers, I'm focusing all of my attention on it, right? I don't care that I'm floating minerals. Like it's good to have maybe like your gateways on hotkey and your robo on hotkey. So like I was slowly making goons and stuff, but that again, that's all lower priority relative to what my game plan was, right? We deflected the 10-12 gate. We took no damage. Opponent went for a Nexus, and they had to make cannons. Therefore, their tech was late. If their tech is late, they have no answer to reavers, right? And so what we decided to do was just to go effectively all in, and it wasn't even an all in, but that was our game plan, and so we succeeded. All right, we just win this one. Bagel Pirate, thanks for the sub, man. Do Terrans exist? I thought Terrans got patched out of the ladder. No? Another PvP! I promise you, the game will start to open up for you when you start focusing on the things that your opponents are not focusing on. Okay? I promise you, things are gonna start to make a lot more sense when you start doing that. Okay? And again, like I said, that's kind of the theme of this whole session, right? It's not about necessarily the builds, even though I am teaching a build, right? It's about just prioritizing different things at different points in time while your opponent is prioritizing who knows what, right? And that's going to give you the biggest edge over your opponents, and that's going to scale all the way up to the pro level. Like if you want to ask like, oh, why is Flash so good? Every pro knows, every pro can macro, every pro can micro, every pro is just like, they're all really good. What does Flash do better than other people? He knows how to prioritize the right things better than other people, right? Like, it's not because his micro is just that much better or anything like that. It's just, he's just a really, really good, you know, prioritizer. That's just what he does. Yo, Refrigerator, thanks for this subs, man. Appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the stream. And I promise you, I absolutely promise you, like, you can take it to the bank. You can take it to the bank, man. The secret of this game is prioritizing the things that are most important. And I know it's oftentimes going to be not obvious. They're not obvious things. And so it's not like your fault for not knowing, but, you know, that's why you can learn them on the stream, you know? Especially in PvP. Like, PvP is going to, like, completely... You're just going to understand PvP so much better. Okay, so it looks like he got first scout. So this means that he probably is over at the adjacent position, right? Unless he did some sort of weird, you know, cross scout, which I don't think is really probable, right? So I'm just gonna go ahead and scout him, you know, cross, because I think he's over there. We're gonna make a Zealot at 16. I'm sorry, Zealot at 14, Pylon at 16, and we're just gonna go on with our build. We want to see if they're going for a 1-gate tech or 2 gateways or something stupid. Let's see if I can get there in time before the Zealot blocks the ramp. Nope, I can't quite get there, but I do get there. Okay, so it is gonna be a 2 gateway again, and this time, look, this time it's a little bit different, right? He's going for a gas first, right? So this build is going to be slightly different. So he's only going to make 3 zealots, unless he's trying to be like a very tricky person. Tricky dick. And what we're going to do is we're going to leave the zealot up there, and we're going to block the zealots as they try to come in. And now we're going to do the same thing. What we're going to do is we're going to try to send the goon out immediately, and then try to micro it as fast as possible. Oh, it looks like I don't have that much time. That's okay, because he only came with one zealot. Try to get as many hits as you can. It's just a game. If you can just even get like a couple of hits, that's fine. Try not to lose the zealot, just like send it away. Again, just have hits. Move your probes away. We lost nothing, right? Okay. Reason time. Our opponent went gas, right? So assuming they didn't, do some Clown Town, cancel. What does that mean? That means that he's not going for a Nexus, right? He cannot have a Nexus, right? So he's probably going for, maybe, the most common thing is they usually go for, like, lots of goons, like 6 goons. They try to push out with it. Or they go like, 4 goon robo. There's a lot of things that they can do, okay? So we're just going to play this very defensively, okay? And again, what is the advantage of our build, right? I went 1 gate robo, they went 2 gate. I have faster tech. What does faster tech mean? I get faster reaver. If I have faster reaver, I can shoot further than my opponents, as long as I control my units well, right? So what is our game plan? Well, then our game plan is going to abuse the fact that my units shoot further than his units, right? So we're just going to bank up a bunch of goons, see what he does, right? Because he has 2 gateway production, I don't want to be out on the map, right? Because he can overwhelm me. He can double my goon production if he's making that nonstop, okay? So we're just going to play it pretty safely. I mean, you can kind of poke out, maybe see if they're like out there or not. It doesn't look like he's playing terribly aggressive, but now we can go ahead and check for sure. This is probably a good time to even consider taking another expansion, right? So he looks like he's also trying to check to see what I'm up to as well, right? So let's just see what they're doing. Oh, looks like he does have that. It's gonna be problematic. We can target fire. And with superior micro, we hold, right? Okay. He should not be able to do anything, so we're gonna go ahead and make another Nexus. So he basically exhausted all of his units, right? Okay, so it looks like he's actually expanding, which I find to be crazy. I guess this is what happens at this level. So what does this mean? He used up all of his units. Oh, he's now going, oh my gosh, Dark Templar. Okay, so now we should probably move up, just because we are at risk here. Before they come out. And again, this PROTOSS intends on playing, more of a style where, yeah, that was kind of sweaty, a little bit. Anyways, we got to block that. And again, they are lacking units, right? So we're gonna go ahead and attack. We're gonna move up to 4 gateways. Get a gas. And again, notice how I'm focusing on my macro like while I'm not actually fighting, right? Like, you guys notice that? So we're gonna try to see if I could, you know, maybe bust. And again, this is where we want to kind of take it slow, right? Let's try to see what he has. Maybe he has some storms, right? And if the storms are there, maybe we can't quite do this, but let's just try, right? You never know. Let's just try to focus our attention on these reavers. Boom, headshot. Boom, headshot. Boom, headshot. Boom, headshot. He has 1 storm, but how much does he actually have? Again, let's prioritize the reavers. Boom, headshot. Boom, headshot. Boom, headshot. Boom, headshot. Should be game over. And we win! So usually against that 2-gate fast gas over there, what happens is that like they sometimes come out with that 6-goon push, so you should be really careful about that. That 6-gate, like even though you have faster tech, because they have that second gateway, they actually outproduce you, even if you started goons faster, okay? So be wary of like that 6-gate push, 6-goon push, and if you're scared, just wait until you're a reaver. And remember, if you have reavers, you know, like don't be too hasty because you know that your tech is always going to be faster, right? So even if you're a little bit slow to move down or, you know, all these kinds of things, try to think about like what you can do, you know, like what your objective is, and don't try to be too hasty. Don't try to like go down and like take your expansion too fast, or you're trying to be all economic. You know, those are good, but those are like making nexuses and expanding in PvP is really not a huge deal. Because as we've kind of talked about, you know, you can, like, players who focus too much on their macro in PvP are missing the point of the matchup. Right. Players who go for Storm, oftentimes, and I used to play Storm all the time as well, is because I can't focus my attention on Reavers, right? But again, you know, that's why if you play with Reavers, you have a natural advantage against those kinds of players, because they don't want to, you know, focus their attention on the right things. They just want to play linearly and, you know, macro and, you know, basically just play like that. So, all right, now we get a PBT. Very nice. PBT on Fighting Spirit. We're gonna go for a 23 Nexus. I think it's just the easiest build order. I'm just gonna play probably the most safe vanilla type of build that really just helps you get into a situation to play the matchup, you know, easily. I would say at this level, PvT definitely favors PROTOSS, so you should use that to your advantage, right? Because Terran units require more finesse, and a lot of Terran players don't have good finesse. Therefore, if you are better with your macro and your builds, it'll favor you at the lower levels. So PvT is a little bit different than everything that I've been saying in PvP, right? Why? Because either you play a very high skill build, which is to use reavers that are scaling units, or you play with non-scaling units like goons and zealots and arbiters, right? So I would say that reavers are superior, but at this level, it's probably hard to play with. So therefore, we're gonna play focusing our attention a little bit more on the macro side of things than the micro side of things this game, okay? So we're gonna shift gears, okay? And again, the reason why this works is because PROTOSS units are more straightforward than Terran units, and your opponent needs to have better micro on average to utilize their Terran units effectively. So we're gonna take advantage of this fact to win at the lower levels. Make the Cyber Core on 13. We're gonna go for 23 Nexus, which is one of the most standard build orders you can do. And with this build, we're gonna scout with the Dragoon so that we maximize our economy without sacrificing, you know, much of anything here, because with 23 Nexus, you don't really die to anything. You are effectively safe against virtually anything Terran can do. That said, you can fall behind if they open, you know, things like racks expand and stuff. So every build has its strengths and its weaknesses, but I'd say this one is generally very good at the lower levels. It's only at the higher levels where you start to see differences in its relative strength. Just because Terrans are going to start adjusting towards you. So we queue up 2 Dragoons. We're going to scout with the first Dragoon. When you make a second Dragoon, immediately out of the gateway, you do not need to block the ramp, right? Sorry, what do I mean by that? Wait, did I say that right? Oh yeah, you can send your first goon out if your second goon is queued up right behind it, okay? Yeah, you block with the second goon, okay? Boom, Nexus 23, Pylon. And if they send a Vulture right to my base, that's okay, so you can just keep that right there, boom. And then we keep making workers. We're prioritizing workers here. And then we're gonna make a robotics because we need to get an observer out ASAP. Then when you have money, you make your third Dragoon. And then after your third Dragoon, you make your second gateway. All of this is very, very vanilla stuff. Looks like I might have last scout, which is starting to get into danger zone actually, but it's okay. So now we're gonna make our second gateway. I didn't see a Vulture come by. I like to put my Robo on 4. Let's try to block this. Let's try to make sure he actually has a command center. Yes, he does. This actually looks like a racks expand. Let's transfer about 6 workers to the natural. I mean 7, sorry. And then we're gonna go ahead and make observatory. So you can try to punch this down. Looks like he's trying to set up some mines. So this is not a rack expand, I'm sorry. This is actually just a normal factory expand. Oops. I'm actually supply blocked, which is really bad. Because I really need to know what he's up to. But again, like I said in my other game, it's good practice to try and make a third base with 3. Oh my god, really? SCVs are strong. Oh my god, my observers are so late. We're gonna make that third base. Again, the third base is good to make after you have about 6 Dragoons. If your opponent to go for a dropship play. They should be coming right at around now. So I'd actually send a couple of goons back home. And I'm just going to go ahead and make 4 gateways. Just because this is going to be a very safe type of build. Okay. We should not be worried about dying to virtually anything here. Like any sort of pushes. Okay. We're going to bring our stuff out. Again, this is really important. Don't rush the attack here. Wait for things to come out. Then now when you have your goons, now you can waltz in. If you're in range of the tank, get it. If not, then don't. See, now we have adequate defenses. We're not going to die to anything. We're going to go ahead and make a gas. And when you make the gas, you synergize that with a citadel. And it's really important to like not allow yourself to die to kind of like a run by, so to speak, right? Transfer about 12 probes or whatever. Then Brood War, thank you. Let's just check to see what he's doing. My scouting is like really, really bad. Looks like it's a 5 factory, right? Now that we know it's a 5 factory, we can go ahead and match it with 8 gateways. And we will now have adequate defenses. And yeah, you just basically keep making a bunch of units. Yeah, I like to have, you know, 2 control groups of dragoons. That's kind of annoying that he gets in there like that. I usually like to also make a shuttle for good measure. It just really helps. And so again, I'm still making some more. So remember, I have 8 gateways. He has what, 5 or 6 factories? 6 factories. So my production is superior, right? If he's gonna hop forward, okay, no. If not, then you just move back. You can slowly make tech if you can kind of afford it. Right? You should maybe like send a probe to try and make like another base if you can. He might actually not even be going for a push. He might actually just be like expanding here. But let's see. So again, let's focus our attention. He's right there. We can either choose to attack it right now. Let's try it. I'm gonna try to. It's like he got like some really good target firing there. It's good to really try to. Oh gosh, that was actually a really bad play. I think I may have lost this because of that bad attack. When you're losing like this, you want to try and see if you can maybe get something done with like your shuttles, okay? And again, you can try your best to like, you know, stall as much as you can. That said, I feel like I took that fight way too early. Alright, we're just gonna try it. No, it's not gonna work. We lost. Unfortunately, the reason why we lost there is because I knew I could have killed that attack. Okay. The problem is I didn't want to micro my units too much because, you know, I'm not trying to abuse mechanics here. But effectively, what you should have done, okay, what you could have done is micro your dragoons so as to spread them out. I would say that this is probably a bit of a higher level mechanic. The best way and the most easiest way to play this is you could have waited to take the fight over here instead of over here, okay? Just because you'll have 8 gateways and you should be easily be able to stomp this attack, you know. That said, I was in a weird spot where I didn't know if I should be like microing it perfectly, but like I'll show you what I mean. That should have been a victory if I decided to spread out my dragoons, right? So just watch, like, you know, he walked right into me, right? And what you should do is notice that the siege tanks, your opponent is, you know, controlling their siege tanks similar to how they're controlling, I control my reavers, right? And as I as I told you, as the reaver, what do you try to do? You want to try to find the money shots. You want to try to get the, you know, clumps of goons so that you can pop all of them. But if you, as the PROTOSS player, wants to become excellent in your micro, what you should do is deny those money shots, right? So as you drop these shuttles, basically what you do is like I would put these goons forward, like move them forward here, and then target fire that. I would move this one forward and like target fire that, right? Target fire these to that. So then you immediately take out 4 goons, right? And then you have speed zealots sitting right on top, right? So this one, you know, obviously what he did was he target fired really well, right? He target fired that, he popped it, right? And so he's doing a really good job of target firing, whereas I'm not target firing that, and that's why I lost that battle, right? Obviously, if I just waited for the rest of my army, then, you know, that would have been the easy way out, right? But, you know, that's why target firing is really important. So again, this would be a good lesson for the reavers, right? If you are the Terran player and you're trying to focus your attention on fighting well, right? Imagine if this Terran player did not target fire, right? Look at the impact of the target firing. Look at that, right? He didn't spread out all of the things. He focused his attention there, and he got rewarded for focusing attention on the right things, right? And so that's why he won. So he did a good job of target firing, and I took the fight too early. I didn't spread out my goons, and therefore that's why he won. So it's a good kind of lesson to experience from the other side, even if you're like losing. So, all right, I have about 15 minutes until I have to feed my son. I'll stop the stream here, at least playing. But if people want to, if anyone has any questions, happy to take some Q&A for now. No, I'm not a pro player. I'm a scrub, you know. I do have to feed my son. He's a baby. He's a 3-week-old baby. I guess I could dine with him, you know. You have like a steak and a steak knife, and you know. What's your game plan against dropships in PvT? Well, you just have to spread out your goons and stop them, right? You have to kind of play a little bit defensively, unless you have an opening to punish them because they don't have any tanks. So, thanks, y'all. 2-player map PvT.